what people think as the cost of food, it does not really reflect the amount of resources it took to produce the food, transport it, but then also produce the landscape that grew the food. The majority of the food in the world is grown on lands that have been deforested and then grown with corn and soy to feed livestock, mostly cattle. And that's insane when you think about it, because that same amount of land grown for food for us, we could have fed everybody in the world at least once over. You realize, okay, well, if I have this grass in my yard that's costing me money, that's just going to be an expense. But if you make that land work for you, you put a couple of raised beds, some container gardens, you can actually get that land to begin to reward you.
And have a more sustainable life and healthier. Hey guys, welcome back to GlowTalks. Today's episode is actually for anyone who's ever looked at their yard or even their windowsill and asked, could I be doing more with this space? What if your outdoor space could actually be doing more for you and your family? We're talking about some simple and accessible ways to increase your property value, use your outdoor space, and perhaps feed your family and have a healthier lifestyle with less toxicity. And I've got the perfect guest, Dane Hoover with Eden and Dane.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm excited to share with our viewers more about your permaculture design. I know that you have been doing this for quite some time. So I'd love to share with the viewers first, what exactly is permaculture and how did you get into this?
Well, permaculture is the idea of having a permanent culture, or some people say permanent agriculture. So this is replicating nature, whether it's a regular old forest, and recreating that in your yard and creating something that's made to produce food at every level. That's one idea. Another idea is a series of tenets or ideas where it's being more sustainable, making peace with the land, doing things in harmony with nature, whether that's addressing the wind flow or how the water moves down a hill. It's just being aware and making these changes to accommodate and work with, not against nature.
Yeah, I think this is really important, especially because as we were talking before we started taping, that we have such a modern life now. And we think, oh, we've got this perfect piece of land and we're just going to develop and put something here and whatever. And then it could actually end up turning out being a disadvantage to your home.
Absolutely. Yeah, so many developers will clear cut a property and then plant something that's either invasive, plant something improperly, or just plant something that's not exactly suited to the landscape. So,
and with the water, especially water runoff and how water is treated on the land, I do think that's really important because we know how damaging it is.
Yeah, and a huge storm management option is plants. You know, they're going to help purify the water. They're going to saturate the ground with the water so it doesn't just run off. If you just have grass covering everything, it's like a slip and slide. It's going to cause problems.
Yeah, so I'm sure my viewers can relate to some of this, whether they have a large property, they already have a garden, or they built their own home, or they purchased a home in a neighborhood or not, right? I think a lot of people want to help make the land work, right? Yeah.
So a lot of people want to get something out of their land. Maybe they don't know what it is. Maybe they want to grow some cucumbers. Maybe they want to grow some jackfruit, whatever it is, a unique or local. It's all available. You just have to strategize on how you're going to do that. And sometimes that can be as simple as just putting a basil plant on your windowsill and cutting off the flowers so it keeps producing leaves. And then you're constantly maximizing how much you're getting, even with the small space. Sometimes it's doing a whole orchard with 20 plus trees. I just did an installation for somebody recently where we've got over 20 different kinds of fruit trees and bushes, really beautiful space, and it's still pretty tucked away. So they're going to really maximize what they're getting out of that space. And when you know you want to see your kids running around and teaching them to get the berries, or that's something that they did when they were kids, it's really accessible. You just have to know what grows well and then what is going to be easy to grow.
Yeah.
And of course, what you actually like to eat.
Yeah.
Some people will get food or plants and not know if they're going to like it or not. And then they grew the wrong plant only to find out they didn't like the fruit. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that can happen.
absolutely.
I'm sure. Well, and that's why you're here.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about unpack a little bit on how can someone get started in having more natural food or resources on their property without having to feel so overwhelmed. Because when I think about it, and I've seen some of my friends, neighbors install garden boxes or plant trees and all of this stuff, and it just sometimes can be very overwhelming. So how can we just get started in an easy way? Something simple, intentional. Like what could we do?
Well, intention is everything.
Yeah.
But just being willing to look into what you can do is a huge first step, because a lot of people just leave it as an idea. Once you have the idea, you can start looking at your garden zone so you can know what you're going to be able to grow outside. And that's going to be the biggest indicator or allowance.
Okay.
So
like sunlight exposure, I'm sure.
Yes, sunlight's huge. So you're definitely going to want to know how many hours of sunlight something needs, if it's full sun, part sun, etc. But for example, where we are in Great Falls, this is zone 7, which means that the growing season is shorter than zone 8, but longer than zone 6 and so on.
Okay.
So what that means is you have a window where the plants will need to be warm and they'll die back if it's too cold for them. So once you know that framework, then you can say, okay, we're in zone 7, we can grow pawpaws, we can grow cherries, etc. And we can't grow oranges. So we know what we're going to be able to have. And to do that easily, the best thing to do is to grow what you're going to eat.
Okay.
Because if you're going to eat a lot of apples and you know that, then you're going to make it work.
Okay.
If you want to have a ton of blackberries, but you're not going to turn it into a cobbler or smoothies, then you might just have fruits that don't get eaten. So being able to grow something that you're going to eat is one of the most actionable things to do.
Okay.
And that's a great way to be intentional.
So, like, the more you're actually harvesting the fruits and vegetables, it's kind of like hair. When you cut it at the end, then it grows better. It grows in better or more. Is that true in the same way or no?
There's a couple different schools of thoughts to this, and this also kind of parlays into how much maintenance you want to do.
Yeah, because time is,
right,
of the essence.
I always like to ask people, how much time do you think you're going to be spending gardening? And then sometimes I like to ask, how much time are you actually going to be spending?
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's a big discrepancy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to pruning specifically or harvesting things, there are so many different options. What some great producers do is actually cut off some of the flowers or fruits so they can have the fruits that do grow can have more concentrated energy and sugars.
Okay.
And that's the same thing with other plants. So
Yeah.
theoretically, if you cut off all the flowers on an apple tree but one, you'd have like the sweetest apple ever.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so fascinating. I'm sure different plants will do different things too, like require more time or, let's say, watering or sun exposure. We can't, we can position it, but the sun is the sun, right? So
That's one of the things when you have successional planting and then layers, you can really accommodate that. You can do a sun study to see where the sun's going to go, what's going to cast the winter sun versus what's going to catch it, and same with the sunner, because the azimuth, the height of the sun, is at a different angle. So you're going to get more sun in the summer. So you're going to want to put things in that path with more sunlight capabilities or things that are going to be able to handle more.
more sun.
So with that, when you look at these different levels, these different intricacies, you can really bring that together and just maximize your plants that are going to take that sun and then ultimately what they're going to produce.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so again, just to kind of reiterate, because we're not living in Florida, our sun patterns here are way different, and temperature, right? Because we're in an area where we have all 4 seasons. Like, what does that look like? Let's say I install a garden, it's self-watering, I tend it during the seasons, the spring and the fall, and then what happens over the winter?
So over the winter, a couple things are going to happen. Anything that's perennial is going to either die back or just stay there.
Okay.
And it'll grow again in the next spring, the next season, whenever it is. We actually have a native plant around here called ramps, which are biennials. They grow every other year.
Oh.
And they're amazing. You can harvest them. They're super coveted by chefs. That's an example of a growth pattern that is in nature that nobody really replicates, because you don't want to harvest something like every other year. So in the winter, things are going to change. Your perennials are going to stay there. They're just going to either die back or leave their leafy structures. And those are actually super helpful for pollinators because they're going to overwinter there.
Okay.
So if you really want to work with the landscape and have those bees work for you, I always call them nature's contractors, but you don't have to give them W-2s or 1099s, because they'll work for you, they'll pollinate your plants, and they'll do it without asking for water, lemonade, or any kind of paycheck. So giving them a home is going to encourage them to stay. So you're going to have the plants that have like dead stems, and some people consider that unsightly or whatnot, but that can be managed, dealt with to make it look more pretty, but still help the bees. If you have annuals, you'd want to take those out. So your pepper plants, you'll remove them. Some people actually overwinter them. They cut the roots back and clean them up. I've done that before. It's got mixed results.
Okay.
But by and large, the garden in the winter here is not going to be producing too much.
Right.
You might have some herbs that overwinter all right, maybe some kind of rosemary or oregano. If you have a good variety, you can still kind of get that.
I see mint around here a lot too.
Yes, mint grows super well around here, really everywhere.
I know. Well, such a hardy herb, right? Mm-hmm. Well, and that goes back to saying, right, we can even just start small. If you're interested in learning more and just kind of getting started, maybe a windowsill herb garden is a good way to go.
Exactly. Even as we had discussed earlier, or a container garden. So you can have those annuals. You can have your basil, your tomatoes, your peppers, etc., and then just bring the pots inside. A lot of people even do that with citrus trees because they pot so well. I actually have some at home.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know that these days, if you look, there's a lot of different self-watering pots and things that are safe to still bring inside, that it's not going to make a mess, in your house. And they've got all these new designs and type things to use, right?
There's so many different kinds of irrigation tactics. One of my favorites is actually called an Olla, O-L-L-A, and it's a clay pot that slowly leaks water into the soil. So essentially you just pour water into the clay pot and then it slowly releases it. It's amazing.
That is fascinating. I've never heard or seen that. So you're going to have to show me coming soon all of these cool things. Okay, so going back to, look, anyone can start this. It's not rocket science. I'm sure there are some things that we're going to learn along the way, right? Watering, sunlight, some of the basics. Can we talk a little bit about soil and pH and some of that? Because I always see like fertilizers or different kind of soils. Like, what should I be using if I'm doing like a little windowsill potting system?
If you're doing a little windowsill potting system, one of the best things you can do is just get a pre-made potting mix and then add some mycorrhizae to that.
Okay.
Mycorrhizae is a form of mycelium that's meant to bond to the roots of plants.
Oh.
So essentially, it's like you have two different towns. One's the root system of this pepper plant, and the other system is, say, another plant. And there's no network between them. But when you put together the mycelium, the mycorrhizae, you get a network between them so they can transfer nutrients to each other. Water, sugars, nitrogen, other things that the one plant might be deficient in.
Okay.
So that is like a superpower. That's like giving steroids to the soil.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's so incredible.
Right?
Yeah, I love that.
So you can do that. You can also put some permaculture into pots. I learned this idea from one of my favorite YouTubers, Sean from Edible Acres. Amazing guy. What he does actually is takes a pot and then he puts a little guild in it. A guild is a selection of plants that serve multiple functions. So you have something that's going to repel insects, something that's going to provide nitrogen, like clover, which actually takes nitrogen from the atmosphere and injects it into the soil.
Okay.
And then you're going to have something that grows in the soil, and then you're going to have mushrooms that decompose. So you can use something like wine cap mushrooms, which are also edible. So if you had little flower pots, what you could do, putting all this together, is seed some clover seeds, because you can also eat them. And then you can put some mycorrhizae in, and then you can even add some wine cap mycelium, and then you can even get some mushrooms out of it. So you can just have all these little things in one little pot.
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, and think about it. Like, let's see, even a small family, they could be saving a lot of money by just having one or two of these pots with the different foods, like you had mentioned, that you love and will eat, and have a more sustainable life and healthier, right? Because we're not spraying it with chemicals. It's all, ready to go.
Yep.
Less trips to the grocery store.
Yep. All these things are true. I mean, what people think as the cost of food, it does not really reflect the amount of resources it took to produce the food, transport it, but then also produce the landscape that grew the food. Because the majority of the food in the world is grown on lands that have been deforested and then grown with corn and soy to feed livestock, mostly cattle. And that's insane when you think about it, because that same amount of land grown for food for us, we could have fed everybody in the world at least once over. And you realize, okay, well, if I have this grass in my yard that's costing me money, I have to pay guys to come mow it, to reseed it. That's just going to be an expense, and oftentimes it's not going to get better.
Yeah.
But if you make that land work for you, you put a couple of raised beds, some container gardens, whatever it is, you can actually get that land to begin to reward you.
Mm-hmm.
And that can even be intensified with rebates, government tax credits, things like that.
Yeah.
So for somebody who looks at it from the financial perspective,
Right.
they
I
can
mean,
say,
I'm a realtor and I invest in real estate. So yeah, like these are definitely top priorities, is to increase the value of my home.
right, absolutely. You can get value from increased curb appeal, from having a mature landscape, and just having a more beautiful landscape.
Yeah.
And
And it can sustain itself, right? So then
Yes.
I'm not having the expense of constantly having to water and cut and,
Yes.
prune. I mean, you have to prune, but like there's other expenses in keeping up a grassy field.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that it's like, do you really want to hear somebody mowing your yard every Saturday morning? I personally don't. Some people like the grass, but what it comes down to is you can have a resource that gives you food. And just as an example, for a recent project, we did about 20 plus fruit trees, between 20 to 25. We're going to add a couple more. And we've got about 25 fruit bushes as well. Now, for the trees, that's going to be between 1,300 and about 2,400 when the trees are about 3 to 4 years old. So they've got some more maturity. They're producing more fruit. That's everything from plum to peach to pear to apple, etc. And then we've got the fruit bushes will produce maybe $800 to $1,800 again once they're in that full production swing. And so if you look at, for example, blueberries, say it's $4 a carton, you buy it every other week, it's going to be about $100 a year. And that adds up quickly once you have the other food, then you have the time. So for the family that looks at this for the cost, when you're growing these things, you're saving the money, but you're also getting food that's healthier.
Yeah.
It's not getting shipped from who knows where.
Yeah.
Even you go to the local grocery store, the lettuce is shipped from Guatemala.
Yeah.
The oranges are from Florida. Everything is from somewhere else.
Well, and you were saying like the cost of manufacturing and all of the coming back and forth and the gas and whatever. I mean, that's a carbon footprint that now
Right.
we are promoting
Yes.
by just buying it in the store versus growing it on our own.
Absolutely. And that carbon footprint is going to be one of our most lasting impacts. There are all kinds of websites that do your own carbon footprint calculation.
Okay.
And I was shocked how high mine was.
Like, even though I know
Yeah.
you already live like pretty sustainably.
I do my best,
Yeah.
but driving a car, and we can't fault ourselves because we live in such a car-dependent society.
Right.
But even when I've lived in a city, it's been very difficult because so many of the systems we have in place are not sustainable friendly, which is why I think these kind of things are so important.
Yeah.
And then we take a lot of this food supply back and give it to ourselves.
Instead of animals,
Exactly.
which then like will reduce all of that, just that whole industry, right, of livestock and cattle and all of that. So I do believe we talked briefly before we started recording about, let's say, look, at the end of the day, everyone knows eating fruits and vegetables is going to be our best source of nutrients for the human body. Yes, we eat meat and other, fish and things like that, which I think is fine for the human body to process those things. And even red meat, some people are better able to digest and utilize those nutrients than others. But overall, we know fruits and vegetables are the way to go. And let's say we do want to have some kind of chickens or something on our property. Like, how does that look? It seems so overwhelming to me.
Well, there's a lot of different things you can do, because you're right that a lot of these foods are going to be amazingly nutritious. And a huge part of that is making sure the soil also has those nutrients, so that when it goes up to the plant, it's being produced from soil with good health.
Yeah.
Now, you can get foods that are extremely popular for health products like moringa or mangosteen, a very popular fruit.
Yes.
Those are a bit more tropical though, so those might go in a greenhouse. Something that you and I can grow here, haskellapes, blackberries, things with naturally high concentrations of vitamin C, antioxidants, things like that.
Yep.
Chickens are another one of those amazing nature's employees.
Okay.
Where we can just say, go eat the bugs in the garden, give us your nutrients from the manure, and it just all works so harmoniously. Chickens are amazing.
Yeah,
So,
my friend Jen, actually, who is with Tree of Life and who was on the show just recently, she has chickens and other animals on her property. And I know it was a kind of a step transition for her, but I was always amazed to go there and be like, wow, it's all like self-functioning at this point, which is so cool.
I feel like a lot of people think of chickens and they think you need a tractor and you need a barn, and it's just a couple birds. You just give them some food, just give them some water. And when you realize that a lot of these things that we're used to are actually very easy to obtain, you don't need a $1 million farming piece of equipment from John Deere to go get blackberries or cranberries.
Yeah.
You don't need Tyson to package your meat and send it to you. Or eggs. You just have it right there. And that's the beauty and the ease of things that I try to help people with. I really want to help give that back to people, whether it's increasing their property value, it's getting better food, or just being more self-sufficient. All those things are amazing.
No, I think that's so great. I mean, is that like, how did you, and I know I asked you a little bit earlier in the episode, but I'm assuming that this is part of your whole like reason why you're doing this and why you continue to help others to learn.
Well, this is because I love this stuff. I do it every single day, literally from when I wake up to when I go to bed, because I've got chickens at home. I've got a whole garden that I tend to, and I've got a lot of clients that I work with at various levels to do this stuff because they're interested in making these changes.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is how we take back the money and power that has been taken from us and gone to supply chains, monopolizing food companies, and just generally things that don't help anybody.
Just bad business at a certain point.
So these things are amazing. I love it, and that's why I feel compelled to try and give it to people. And some people I work with have tons of money to throw at these projects, and that's amazing. But a lot of people, especially people who'd benefit from this truly, don't have those same resources. So I really want to find more ways to explore giving back to people, whether it's in larger community gardens. I know your friend Jen does something like this in Tree of Life.
Tree of Life has something, yes, that they work with a company to help that.
And it's things like that that really inspire me too, because food should be available to everyone. If you're going to put trees along the road or in the landscape, why not something that people can also go harvest?
Yeah.
And I just think that it's such a beautiful resource.
Yeah.
Actually, quickly on that point, there are a couple websites that track fruit trees in cities and tell you where you can go harvest them. Fallen Fruit is one of them. There's another one, I'm blanking on the name, But if you search websites to track fruit trees, you can find it. But for anybody who just wants to go in Los Angeles and find free olive trees, or in DC, wild plum trees, it's available.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Right?
No, there's a lot of resources out there. Well, and including yours. So I know that you do work with folks on a consultative basis. And I think, as we discussed and as I read on your website, you'll offer a free consult for anyone who's interested to just learn a little bit more, or maybe take a look at their yard or take a look at their home. And what else? Like, how would all that work? Just giving you a call and...
Sure. Yeah. So on my website, I try to give some information so you can see what I'm trying to do, my mission, my intention. And say, for example, you had a couple acres or you had less, whatever amount of land you had, but you knew that you wanted something more pollinator friendly, some food. You'd give me a call and you'd say, "Hi, Dane, I am really interested in growing some more native wildflowers, and I'd love to have a small food forest or a raised bed or two." And it's okay, great. I'll come over. We can talk about your goals, your intentions, what kind of things you'd want to grow, again, what you'd be eating, because I really like to know what actually makes people tick.
Yeah.
I don't want a speculative, maybe I'd eat those peppers. I want to know that you're going to make use of it.
Yeah.
And we'd come up with a design. And then once the design is approved, once the client likes it, once you say, "Okay, Dane, this looks great. I want, 3 of those raised beds," then we'll build it. And I like to be involved in that process for a couple of reasons. But number one, because I've seen a lot of people flounder and falter on this effect.
Okay.
They don't build things, or the architect's not at the construction site.
Okay.
I try to get my hands dirty in the soil as much as I do the actual design.
Yeah.
Because this is to ensure that everything's done so that you're going to be happy and you're actually getting what we're talking about.
Yeah, a long-term investment,
Exactly.
A successful long-term investment in your land and property.
And in that point, when you hire me or when you use my services or anything like that, what you're doing is investing in your land.
Yeah.
And you're making it work for you. So in your case, as a realtor, when you look at these properties speculatively or long term, you're thinking, okay, this is how much it could increase the property value. Virginia Tech and other schools in Virginia have studied this, and there's a variety of studies, but they say that the average cost increasing depending on the maturity of a landscape and the volume of plants can be between 5 to 12%. That's a lot of money in Great Falls.
That is a lot.
So I think the median home price here is, well, 10% of that would be over $100,000, to put it like that. And that can be just because of mature plants.
Right.
So if you do that, you're really looking at something that maximizes it, and it's going to be worth way more in equity than what you would ever pay me in design or installation costs.
Yeah, and consultations. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I always like to kind of prepare ahead. And obviously we know with plants, it takes time to grow and for them to, come to like full, like you said, like full fruition. So yeah, I mean, anyone who's looking to invest and stay at a property for, let's say, more than 3 to 4 years, right? The 5-year mark to 10-year mark. This is a really great way to, at the start of it, put a little bit of investment in and gain a lot out at the end.
Absolutely.
And over time, because you're growing your vegetables and you're healthier as a result, right? I do love also just being out in nature. I do think that it's a very grounding thing for us humans to get out. And what better way than to have a little garden or have a little spot, that you like to go and pick your fruit and pick your vegetables. I wish we had more of that in my home personally right now, but I'm just in a little bit of a transition. So coming soon, I'm very excited to work with you on some of these new projects.
Well, I couldn't be more excited to help you out with it.
Yeah, no, this is great. So now, thank you so much for all of this information. I do really appreciate your being here and sharing with our viewers some of this fascinating stuff. I just had no idea that the roots could grow even if it's separate plants and they can help like sustain each other. I kind of love the concept of that. I wish we could all do that. I guess that's the goal as humans, right? Is as we connect and support, then it kind of is the same concept, right? Now, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, we're looking at EdenandDean.com.
Yes.
That's your website. You have a YouTube channel as well.
I do.
And also an Instagram account. So I know you've got some really great information at all of these 3 spots online, and we've got all of that for you below in the comments. So if you want to get in touch with Dane, please reach out to him. As part of our season 2, we have this fun little game that we play called Ping Pong.
Okay.
So if you're up for it,
Absolutely.
let's get started. I've got a couple of questions for you just so our viewers can learn a little bit more about you.
Okay.
All right. So first question. What is the first plant that you ever successfully grew?
Probably basil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it an easy or difficult plant?
It's so easy.
Easy.
I may have cheated though, because I got it from the grocery store and then I transplanted it.
Well, that's okay. We all have to start somewhere. So
Right.
viewers, you can do the same
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. Look at where I am now.
Oh my gosh.
But basil's amazing. But I did transplant it, keep growing it. So
Okay.
it started a lot, but just.
And then you said you can cut the flowers and it'll spread?
Yes. Well, so you cut the flowers to ensure that the leaves keep growing. And what you can do with the flowers you cut off is put them in a bottle of olive oil and then infuse it. That's one of my favorite kitchen hacks.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I
yeah.
love that.
Right?
Okay, well that's a good segue into our next question, which is one kitchen ingredient that you couldn't live without.
Paprika, 100%.
Paprika.
Yeah,
Okay.
I put it on everything.
Oh, I love it. I love it. What is the favorite spot for you to hang out in your home
Anywhere,
or outside of your home?
anywhere with sun. I mean, obviously, I love the garden. Inside, I would say probably the sunroom, and then outside, obviously, the garden.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
One small daily habit that has stuck with you.
I used to be a pretty regular practitioner of yoga, and that was so good health-wise. I've been less good about that lately. Time is usually the biggest excuse, but honestly, just exercise at large.
Moving your body.
Got to keep the blood flowing, breathing, all of it.
Yeah.
An idle body is less healthy.
Yeah, and longevity-wise, it's definitely studies are showing the more we move every day, the longer we're going to live, and in
Yep.
a more healthy lifestyle.
Yep.
That's so great. Last question. If you weren't doing permaculture, what would you be doing?
Probably architecture.
Okay.
And if I was better at math, then engineering bridges.
Ooh, okay. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, that's fascinating.
But I'm not a math guy, I'm a plant guy.
Okay, well, hey, you know what? You're helping the world one plant at a time. So I love that. And guess what? This is such important information and important things. I think just overall, I think not just in our community, but globally, I think people are starting to wake up to some of these concepts and how important it really is.
Absolutely. And just one final thought, because I had a couple quick little tips, but I think that focusing on plants that are also very easy to produce or propagate, like blackberries or goji berries, and then getting things that are in seed form so you can grow them yourself in seed trays. Those are 2 ways to really help grow your plants so that you're saving money. Managing water, so drip irrigation is usually the most effective way, and then you don't have to stand outside and water stuff all the time. Planting things that are going to produce fruit throughout the year is something I always try to accommodate. Because if you have everything coming out on the second week of July, it's going to be really hard to use all that.
Yeah, no kidding.
But if you have some honeyberries come out the first week of June, some blackberries the week after that, the third week you're going to have some wine berries, whatever the order is, at least you're getting things throughout the season.
Okay,
So
got it.
you're not going to be I got to go outside with 8 baskets and get
Yeah.
everything now.
Yeah.
It's just chill and patient.
Yeah, so timing is everything when harvest time comes for planting and harvest, I can imagine.
Yes. And then that way it also gives you more time to process it, and whatever it is, turning it into peach cobbler or a smoothie, you got it available.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Any other tips that you have for us?
Yes. It's always good to just do some reading. There are a ton of resources online, whether it's YouTube channels. I follow a lot because I'm always learning myself. And the biggest resource of all is just going outside. This is my number one tip. It's the most obvious thing ever, but literally just going outside and just looking at what's going on in your garden, your pots, just observing the plants. Are the new leaves looking healthy? Am I seeing any insects or bugs in the soil? Is the soil wet? Is it dry? You know, just these little things that are so obvious, but just help keep you in tune and then also grounded.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest thing you can do, and then you'll be aware if you're going to get something or not.
Yeah. So like know your garden.
Yes.
Know thy garden.
There's probably a Sun Tzu quote about knowing your garden, but it couldn't be truer.
Maybe if anyone knows what that quote is, please comment below and let us all know what the quote is.
Right.
I love it.
Right.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here, Dane. This has just been so helpful. And I know I do have viewers who have gardens and yards that are, you know, producing things, but maybe these are little tips and things they can do to kind of help them along the way. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I really hope somebody benefited from some of these tips and tricks.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. If you guys love the content, please like, share, subscribe, and, you know, send it to somebody who might enjoy. Please check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please share, and we will see you in the next episode.